Hey, welcome back to another episode of Addicted to Gear. I'm Tony, and if you've been tuning into my channel regularly, you already know that I'm addicted to gear. Now, on this channel, we normally have gear reviews. We talk about guitars, amplifiers, accessories, pedals, all sorts of things related to guitars. But every now and then, I like to have a little discussion with my viewers. And today, I thought it'd be cool if we would take a little stroll down memory lane and discuss your very first guitar. And when you purchased it, what guitar it was, and whether or not you still own that guitar. Because I still remember my very first guitar. I clearly remember the day, and this, I mean, we're talking, over 35 years ago. And I could still remember the day. It was a weekend. I can remember it was a beautiful sunny day, very warm. And I basically pestered one of my cousins. I'm sorry, Mike. I'm really sorry, because I remember calling you about 20 times, maybe 25 times that day. You were out, you were busy doing errands, but I kind of finally got a hold of you and convinced you to come with me because my mom had finally given me the okay that she would buy me the electric guitar that I was pestering her for well over, I'd say at least a couple of months to buy. And so I wanted my cousin Mike's opinion because he was a bass player and he was the only musician that I knew of in my family that would be able to give me some advice and would understand what I was looking at. Even though he wasn't a guitarist, he would at least be able to, give me a little bit of advice and make sure I wasn't being taken for a ride and whatnot. So, I was stressed that day. I remember because he was out and he promised he would come by and we would go to the shop, and it was getting later and later and getting closer and closer to closing time. And I thought I'd miss my opportunity and then my mom would change her mind. But he finally showed up and we took a drive over to a local guitar center that actually is still around. After all these years, they're still around. They're still doing well. And I still visit them regularly. And so we took a drive there. And I walked in, I could hear people playing the guitars and it was pretty busy. And I looked at the wall full of guitars and I didn't know, I was like flabbergasted at all the choices of different instruments that were on the wall. Of course, my budget was pretty narrow. I really wanted a Strat. I was really like, if I could only get one guitar, it would have to be a Strat because all the famous guitarists that I loved played a Strat. Jeff Beck played a Strat, David Gilmour played a Strat, Stevie Ray Vaughan played a Strat, and the list went on and on. And I figured, that's a serious professional musician's guitar. If you're a professional musician, you have to have at least one Strat. And that's what I was after. But my budget was so small that I couldn't afford a Strat or anything like that. But I figured, okay, if I can't afford a Strat, I'm going to get something that's the closest I can get to a Strat. So I looked at the wall and my eyes glanced in the corner. There was a stealth black Ibanez Roadstar 2. I don't know if any of you guys remember those guitars, but they look like Strats basically. From the body all the way to where the headstock started was basically a Strat. Rosewood fretboard on it, I still remember. It had 3 single coil pickups. Everything on the guitar was black. The pickguard was black. The pickups were black. The hardware was black. The neck was rosewood. The headstock was painted black. Only the Ibanez logo was painted in a metallic silver, which was pretty cool. And it had a whammy bar on it, but it didn't have any locking mechanisms yet. All the Floyd Rose and Kahler and all those fancy locking systems came a little bit later when Eddie Van Halen obviously started doing all of that, and it became quite popular later on. But at that time, it still was early 80s, and it wasn't it was early 80s, and it wasn't as popular as it became afterwards. So I ended up looking at that guitar and I'm like, that's it. It fit within the budget. I think the guitar was only about $275. And so I asked, hey, can we listen to it? So the salesperson in the store gave me the guitar. He was like, here, play it, you know. And I'm like, I don't even know how to play it. I was embarrassed actually to even strum a chord because I was so bad. I didn't know how to play guitar at the time. So I let him play it. He plugged into an amplifier, a little amplifier at the time, and he started playing. And I still remember this guy looked like a cross between, he was a small fellow, skinny little guy, you know, receding hairline, curly hair, but a mustache. He looked like a skinny version of Carlos Santana, or a cross between Carlos Santana and Tony Iommi. And the guy could play. He played that guitar like it gave me goosebumps when I heard that guitar through the amplifier cranked up, even though it was a crappy little transistor amplifier at the time. He was playing some licks, some metal licks, or maybe Ozzy Osbourne. I don't remember what it was exactly, but to me it sounded like this guitar was being cranked through a wall of Marshalls or something like that. And I was almost picturing, like, you know, my head on his body, and, you know, he's playing these licks, and I pictured myself being able to play that well, even though I couldn't at the time. So I was like, I was mesmerized, right? So we finally ended up buying that guitar. We bought a little crappy amplifier. I still remember it was EG or Egg. I don't even know if they still make these things anymore. Probably not. I tried to find some images on Google and see if I can find something that resembled that amplifier. And I think the closest I came to was this picture that I found. Not exactly the same, but similar. Really crappy transistor, cheap amplifier. So we bought the amplifier, we bought the guitar, I even bought a case. I think they threw in some picks and maybe some strings and whatnot. But I was so excited to go home and start playing this thing. It was like, the feeling I got that day was like the first time you kiss a girl, or the first time you have any kind of sexual experience with a woman or something like that. It was just like the adrenaline, the endorphins were firing, and it was like amazing. And my life basically changed since that day. I played the shit out of that guitar. I really played the crap out of it. I kept that guitar for many years, and I basically learned on that guitar. And I'm sure that my mom, you know, Mom, I love you, and I really appreciate the fact that you bought me my first guitar. Thank you, because, you know, it's given me a lifetime of pleasure, and I really enjoy music, and it's all because of you. But I'm sure that there was a few days, maybe you never told me this, but I know there's a couple of days that you wanted to take that guitar and crack it in two and throw it in the garbage bin when I was playing too loud, or, you know, being too obnoxious with the music, and maybe not as thoughtful as I could have been in those days. But you never once, you know, told me off, and I appreciate it. And I kept that guitar for many years. I finally ended up selling it. I think it was maybe like 14-15 years ago. And I regret selling that guitar, because it did have sentimental value to me, because it was my very first guitar that my mom bought. But I wasn't playing it as much. I had other guitars, and you know how it is. You have other gear, and eventually you have something else that catches your interest. So I ended up selling it to another fellow who hopefully still has it and enjoys it. And I still see these guitars popping up on Kijiji and the used market from every now and then, but I wasn't able to find exactly the same model. It's strange, because I didn't think they made so many variations, but apparently they did, because I found the same version with humbuckers, active humbuckers, single coil and humbuckers with the single coils that were slanted in the neck and middle position. You know, a whole bunch of different things with, you know, different types of hardware and whatnot. But I wasn't able to find one picture of that guitar, stealth, all black, single coil pickups, black hardware, and rosewood fretboard like the one I had. So I dug up this picture. Now don't laugh, but this is me as a teenager. As you can see with the mullet, this was way back when. And yes, I'm playing an acoustic guitar in this picture, but if you look in the background on the stand beside me there, that's the Ibanez Roadstar 2 that I was telling you about. That's the guitar. And if you look at the pedals at my feet, those are all original MXR pedals. And I had the original script phase pedal. I had the original distortion pedals that became very, very sought after and collectible after so many years. And I ended up selling all those pedals too. And I regret doing that. It must have been the mullet. Maybe it was the mullet that confused me at the time, or made me make some weird decisions, but I ended up selling all those great pedals, and I regret it because they were fantastic and very collectible now. But hey, look, we're still here, we're still buying stuff, we're still reviewing stuff, everything's good, we're all happy, it's fine. That's water under the bridge. So that's my story. That's my guitar. That's my very first guitar. That's the guitar that basically started on my musical addiction and my quest for, ultimate tone, ultimate gear and beautiful guitars, and just, it's the type of thing that never ends. Your journey will never end, and at least with me, it's just an ongoing thing. And just when you think you have the ultimate guitar, there's going to be something else that's going to come around and catch your fancy and keep you going, So it's a lifelong passion for me anyways. But that's it. That's my story, guys. I just wanted to share that with you, and I hope you enjoyed my stroll down memory lane. I hope it wasn't too long-winded and boring for you. I'm sure a lot of you out there know what I'm talking about when I mentioned the feeling you get, and you can still remember looking at the magazines where they're, those Ibanez guitar brochures and the Fender brochures. I still remember what they smell like, because I was staring at them so closely. I was practically licking the pages. And even the smell of the guitar when I brought it home, it's like, I remember the first time I actually played a real Fender Stratocaster. A friend of mine, he was a drummer, and his older brother had an electric Fender Stratocaster. It was a 70s model with the big headstock, one with the 3 bolts as opposed to the 4 bolts, which at the time was, there was a time where they were less desirable, but now they're more collectible for some reason. Anyway, we were jamming, and his brother wasn't around, and he actually let me use his Strat. And when I touched that guitar neck, I still remember it was like such a round fretboard. It must have been a 7.5 radius or something like that, but it felt so different and just felt so nice, and it just felt right with the body, tummy tuck and curves and everything like that. And it was like, I'm playing a Fender Strat, man. This is it, And I was plugged into a Roland Jazz Chorus 120. And his brother was playing new wave music at the time, Flock of Seagulls, and I remember some of the other bands at the time, and that was not what I was into at all. I wanted to play, Van Halen stuff. I wanted to play heavier stuff and whatnot, and it was difficult getting that sound out of a Jazz Chorus amplifier. But hey, I wasn't complaining. I was on cloud 9 playing that Strat, and I remember it like yesterday. It was a beautiful. It actually was had a black pickguard, and it had a rosewood neck, and it was a sunburst, a 3-tone sunburst, and really beautiful guitar. I hope he still has that guitar, because it was really a great guitar. And that's it, and that's the first time I actually touched a Strat. And eventually I got my own Strats, my own Telecasters, and other things as well. But that was it. That was like the first time, So it really brings back a lot of really, really nice memories, fun memories for me. So that's it, guys. I don't want to bore you with my my boring stories for too long, but I felt it would be nice to share these ideas with you, and just give you an idea where we're coming from. So guys, please give me your comments. I want to hear what you had, what you were longing as a kid to get. Did you finally get that guitar you always wanted? Did you have to settle for something else? Were you lucky enough to get something, maybe a hand-me-down from a brother or your dad or something that maybe you got a beautiful, Gibson Les Paul handed to you, or did you get one of those Sears catalog, guitars, those acoustic electric guitars that were kind of like pretty crappy? But maybe that that was something special for you as well. So leave me your comments. I like to hear your stories. Let's share a couple of funny stories if you have them. And that's it, guys. I appreciate you tuning in. If you enjoy this kind of weird stuff that we're talking about from time to time, please let me know. You want to be notified of these videos whenever I post them, just hit the little bell icon and you'll get a little notification when I post these new videos. In the meantime, guys, if you want to hear some other reviews and talk, when we talk about gear and amplifiers and whatnot, just subscribe, stay tuned, because there'll be more videos like that coming your way. That's it, guys. Thank you for tuning in. See you soon.